Hi, I'm Mike Brofman, and welcome to Song and Wine, Brooklyn Art Song Society's web series where we discuss our upcoming concerts over a glass of wine. I'm joined today by soprano Christina Bachrach, who will be joining us in our Aaron Copland concert on Friday, February 1st at the Brooklyn Historical Society. You may recognize Christina as a returning champion on the show, and also she is the soprano in the opening credits.
Oh, yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Waterfront Wines for providing, as always, the wine for our show. And without further ado, let's give this a taste.
What are we drinking?
This is Calabrese.
Wonderful. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's really nice.
It's good. So let's talk Copland.
Let's do it.
We're performing together the 12 poems of Emily Dickinson, which is Aaron Copland's big song cycle.
Yeah.
Traditionally, one divides Copland's works into two styles: the sort of modernist, atonal, European, let us say,
The
style.
Boulanger influenced style, yeah.
And Stravinsky influenced also.
Yeah.
And the quote-unquote American populist style. This is an interesting work that we're performing where I think it's actually a topic of debate of where this song cycle falls. Is this to you sort of American populist, or is this thorny modernist?
Right. I think if I had to choose one, I would say that this falls into the American, the more populist style. We think of sort of Appalachian Spring and Rodeo falling into that, these sort of like reflecting the vast American landscape, expansiveness, drawing on actual folk music or evoking it with sort of simple melodies that pull on the heartstrings. I think at the end of the day, when you think of songs like Nature the Gentlest Mother and Heart We Will Forget Him, that's what we're dealing with. But we're dealing with also, and this might fall into the more modernist category, really sophisticated text setting. Really challenging vocal lines, especially where sort of range is concerned. And I mean, sophisticated songwriting.
Yes.
However, I think the songs are definitely tonal. They're definitely accessible.
I'm going to be a contrarian.
Great.
And I'm going to say that I view them more through a modernist lens, even though I don't disagree with anything you're saying,
Sure.
and I think that your interpretation is perfectly valid.
Thank you.
But I think that at the end of the day, the intent of that something like Rodeo or Billy the Kid had of being for the quote-unquote everyman, or like fanfare for the common man type thing, that's, I think, missing. And this is, like you said, it's very sophisticated text setting, and I just think that like text setting is not like a thing that, you know, the construction worker is supposed to...
Yeah, they're not so concerned with prosody.
But then there's songs like There Came a Wind Like a Bugle, Sleep Is Supposed to Be, and The Chariot, that really use the same textures that the modernist instrumental works like the piano sonata and connotations use. So he uses the idiom of both sort of combined.
That's true.
So maybe we can come to a happy compromise in these divisive times.
We're getting the best of both worlds
That
here.
it's both.
Yeah.
That is both.
That's right.
So my next topic of discussion is the poet, Emily Dickinson. After Copland set these songs and they became as famous as they did, it became very in vogue to set Emily Dickinson, and ever since these songs, there's been hundreds and hundreds. What are your thoughts on Emily Dickinson?
I think she's wonderful. I think she's both lyrical and, I mean, she's incredibly choosy with her words. It's not necessarily the most musical poetry to my ear in a way that someone like Langston Hughes or someone who's like the beat poets, Ginsberg, someone who's really concerned with rhythm. I mean, there are so many. But I think so many of her settings are extraordinarily successful and iconic, and these in particular. What is curious as we talk about this sort of big, expansive American style, we keep sort of coming back to that, these big fifths and big chords spanning the keyboard that are meant to invoke sort of the landscape, mostly of the American West, sort of the frontier. And Dickinson, I think, was not necessarily concerned with America in that way. She spent most of her time in one room, really, at home. She lived with her sister and her father, and her idea of nature was her garden. She was a known botanist in her day, and she corresponded with people all over the country, but she didn't leave much. And so when she writes about nature, the gentlest mother, she's talking about crickets and squirrels and everything you would see in your backyard in New England. Whereas when Copland talks about nature, the gentlest mother, it seems like you can see for miles. You can see for 300
prairie.
miles, yeah, and you can see the weather that's coming tomorrow.
To me, Emily Dickinson, the sort of spirit of Emily Dickinson that in her best poems that I resonate with is the topic, the on the surface words often are about something very small, either physically small or just seemingly trivial.
Yes.
But
she's talking about the world.
Yeah, the subtext underneath is humongous. It's like the vastness of the universe.
Yes, which is kind of, that's who she was.
Any composer who successfully sets Emily Dickinson is able to capture that two sides of that coin.
The delicacy and the
profundity.
Reality. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you can very easily have one or have the other, but it's extremely difficult to capture both in music.
And he does that successfully.
This is an interesting cycle. Some people don't even call it a cycle in that Copland explicitly says in the program notes to it, there is no story or even continuous theme.
Yeah.
The only thing that binds these songs together is the fact that they're all poems by Emily Dickinson and Aaron Copland wrote all the songs.
Right, yeah.
That's it.
I think he actually wrote the last song first, and then sort of out of published order, and then he said they all sort of found their place.
How do you get a sense of cycle when there's not a story like in Dichter Liebe or Frau Lieben Leben?
Yeah. I think that the best thing that I can do, and maybe I'm wrong, is to do as much justice as I can to each song and create as much as we can.
Yeah.
Create as much of the mood and the feeling and be as true as we can to the text and to what the composer intended, and the through line will make itself apparent. I think that they're set beautifully. There's an emotional arc. I think that it would be an injustice to the piece to try to superimpose anything on it. I think they flow beautifully from one to the next, and we have to, in our rehearsal process, we'll find what we feel are appropriate transitions, appropriate amount of times between songs. But I don't think that the work really requires anything additional.
There's a sort of metaphysical nature to it, that's almost the story.
Right.
The story is the ideas, and just the fact that there's this sort of endless flowing of ideas from Emily Dickinson. It's about everything, about the trivial and the profound, about nature, about love, about death, about everything. And that's the story, that this one mind could fathom life so wisely and deeply. And I don't think you need there's nothing more compelling than that in Emily Dickinson's poetry. And I think that's a good note to plug our concert on Friday, February 1st, all Aaron Copland. So myself and Christina will be doing the Dickinson songs on the first half. And then the second half is the Old American Songs, the complete set. Awesome. Dominic Armstrong, tenor, Jarrell Williams, baritone, and Brent Funderburk on piano. It's going to be an amazing concert. It's rare that you get to hear all these songs all together.
That's fantastic.
So we'll see you there. Thanks for watching.
Another good cowpuncher has gone to meet his fate. I hope he'll find a resting place within the Golden Gate, the Golden Gate. Another place is vacant on the ranch of the XIT. will be hard to find.